Recently, I needed to be out of town for several weeks, so there would be a period of time there wouldn't be any people at home. So I had the need to set up cameras at several places. I do have home surveillance system set up already, but for some places you don't need to have cameras if you have people stay at home, right? But for me, for those several weeks, it was different story. So I needed to come up with a temporary solution. So this is what I did. I used my spare cameras, PoE ones, which didn't have any use, and I had several small PoE switches and several Wi-Fi access points in my lab environment. Of course, if I don't stay at home, those access points will be idle, right? I connect them together and set up several temporary cameras. They did perfect job. So this video is just to share my experience. Before we go any deeper, let me address two apparent questions. First, why take such effort? Why not simply buy Wi-Fi cameras, right? Remember, it's just temporary solution. I don't want to spend any penny. I just want to use whatever I already had. One huge advantage if you compare with the affordable Wi-Fi cameras is if you use PoE camera, the quality of the video is much better. Second question, why not wire Ethernet cables so that you have more permanent, better solution, right? Again, the answer is this is a temporary solution. I do not want to have Ethernet cables at those places. Okay, hope it's clear. Let's see how I did it. This is my lab environment. Remember, it was just a temporary solution, right? That real world scenario was long gone when I came back home. But for this video, I simulated the setup using my lab environment. So you need a PoE switch. Of course, this one is wired to your network. And then you need at least one AP, which is physically wired to your PoE switch. And this U6 enterprise access point act as the mesh parent. So the whole solution is based on the mesh networking. For each place, you need a separate access point. That access point need to be meshed to the mesh parent. So this access point doesn't have Ethernet connection to your home network. By using mesh, you resolve the problem for this AP to connect to your network. Of course, to power your PoE camera, you need a PoE switch. And remember, you don't have permanent Ethernet cable, right? So you need a temporary Ethernet connection to a temporary switch. That's why I use a small PoE switch here. It's connected to the access point so that it can connect to multiple cameras. This is example setup 1. So I use this 8-part PoE switch. It has 4 PoE output. You need to use one to power the access point, and the other 3 can be used to connect to your PoE camera. For this kind of setup, you need to resolve 3 problems. First, how to connect your access point to your home network. The answer is Wi-Fi mesh. Second problem, how you can power your AP. The answer is connect to your separate small PoE switch. The third problem is how you can power your PoE camera. The answer is using the same small PoE switch. For this particular setup, to power everything up, I need this brick which came with the switch. So example number 2, another UniFi access point. This time connect to this USW flex. This one doesn't come with a power brick, can only be powered using PoE. Remember, I don't have any physical Ethernet connection to this place, right? How can I power it up? The answer is using a PoE injector. This USW flex requires PoE++, so I need a high power PoE injector. I resolve the power problem. And again, this AP is connected using Wi-Fi mesh. And again, your PoE camera is connected to the smart switch using the built-in PoE output. Okay, so basically these two examples are very similar. The only difference is because I use 2 different type of PoE switches. First one, I use the power brick to power them up. For this one, I use a PoE injector. Now let's go to the network controller. This is the network topology in network controller for Ubiquiti. You can see this access point is the mesh parent. It's physically connected to the PoE switch using Ethernet cable. And see these two dash lines from these two AP. The dash lines means they are meshed into the network. Later we can check the mesh setting for the two APs. And then see these two small PoE switches. They are connected using the corresponding access point in solid line, which means they are using the Ethernet cable physically connected. And the two PoE cameras, they are connected to the switches using PoE Ethernet cable. Then let's check the individual access point. For your mesh parent access point, the setup is super simple. You simply enable meshing. Now it's grayed out because it's already acting as the Wi-Fi parent, so you cannot disable it anymore. Then let's check the two individual mesh children. For example, this U6 Lite. To act as mesh child, you don't need to do any setting basically, because by default the meshing is enabled. It will wirelessly connect to your network if you don't connect it using a Ethernet cable. Theoretically, you don't need to change any setting in the UniFi network controller. Your setup should be working automatically. And for this U6 mesh, it's the same setting. By the way, don't be confused by Ubiquiti's namings for those access points. The U6 mesh, the mesh wording doesn't mean anything. So any access point you buy from UniFi now, they support wireless meshing. For example, this cheapest U6 Lite, it works no problem. And someone may also have concern about the network speed. For example, for my case, the cameras are 2K or 4K PoE cameras. Whether the Wi-Fi connection using the mesh network can support those high-speed videos, don't worry about it, because 4K video means nothing. Even very bad, very weak Wi-Fi connection can support it. At least in my case, for those several weeks, I could remotely monitor those cameras anytime if I wanted. Okay, this is a very short video. Just wanted to give you some idea if you have similar requirement in the future. Okay, thanks for watching.